Alrighty. So I do live stream the first portion of this, and I'll just jabber a little bit and then get an initial round of thoughts or feedback. And then after that, I'll turn this off and we can get more personal if anyone wants to. Yeah, you never know what's going to come out. I did have a guy one time confess to a murder he had done.
I was just thinking that.
Yeah.
Someone's gonna confess a murder.
So,
You weren't here for
anything?
that?
Anything's okay, just saying. So we begin with a very simple practice for just a minute. Here I'm thinking, I can see what thoughts I'm thinking. I can feel what emotions I'm feeling. I can feel my sensory input, the urges of my body. Who am I that can see those things? The observer of that. And then your brain will go looking for it, and that will never find it. It's a strange place of stopping mentally, emotionally, physically. Just, oh, here I am. Who am I? Well, let's take just a minute and feel for that place. Okay. So again, a quick review to get our words on similar pages anyway. Mindfulness is the nuts and bolts or mechanics of spirituality or awareness. It's not a belief, and mindfulness itself is not even a practice. It's about what I just mentioned, developing our awareness of this space in us that is outside of our thoughts, emotions, and body sensations. It's a very real component of us that many people have never acknowledged. Yet, like breathing, every living thing has it because it's part of our life. Being Jesus-oriented, I will make a lot of cross-references to where he was pointing at this. The kingdom within, the peace of God, where do you find it? Look within. All kinds of things. And Buddha taught it in his own fashion. He called it compassion instead of love. The Tao, Lezu, taught it, and he called it the way. Both a way of living and the way the universe operates, and when the two are in harmony, things go better. So mindfulness is each of us tuning into another aspect of ourself we may have ignored in the past. And each of us will use it in our own unique way. We use it when we're washing dishes, when we're driving the car, when we're writing computer programs. It's a very powerful part of our life, and mindfulness is about becoming aware of it more distinctly and learning how to step to it on purpose. So we use a model, different than a belief. A model is just a framework to start with, but then it can change or dissolve. We have life coming into us. Who knows from what, where? Maybe biochemicals, maybe the divine source. Mindfulness doesn't try to define. It's just, all right, yep, I'm alive. I know I'm here. I hear me talking. That life, in all the traditions across the millennium, has been kind of refined in its definition. It's always at peace. You know, this is crazy. Let's see how this goes. It's always it like sees in beauty and fascination and wonder. Who are you? What's going on here? That's its nature. It has another nature of wishing well for everyone else. In Buddhism, it's compassion. In Christianity, it's the love of Christ and the love of God. But we can actually feel those components of what we are in that space. And all those teachers have been saying, man, you really, really want to develop that space more. You'll like it. And so we have this life, it flows into this character we've been given. So it's like, all right, what a ride. Look at this thing I've got. And its reactive nature and its fears and its personal desires. And all right, let's see what life does with this in this world, this creation. And it's just developing an awareness of our awareness. So I learned to live more from the life I am, having this a wonderful adventure, rather than living from the reactive nature, which is always worried about surviving or getting or keeping or protecting and all of that. And Jesus said, you can give all that up and just live in that space of life. Oh, well, you won't be human anymore. And people have actually said that outright. Well, yeah, we are still human. There's just a whole other component to what this human experience can be that most of the collective mind has ever touched. I didn't begin to find it till I started at 30, but then in hindsight I could see it had been there when I was 5. It's our intuitive nature, our insight nature, our revelation nature. All of that comes out of this life we are. So one very basic practice goes with it. It's like I can remember, oh, I could be at peace to experience this or to deal with this. Be at peace and be in love. And like I said, the nature of that space is it wishes well. So my anger or hatred may come roaring up. No problem, just look. Okay, there it is. But I could react or deal with this in peace. I want to get back to that space. So the first step is remembering I could go to peace. I could go to the kingdom. I could go to Christ's love. Whatever I want to call it in a moment. The second step is beginning to make my decision. Yes, I want to go to my peace. No, I don't. I need to be mad about this. I need to be afraid. That protects. You'll find, all kinds of arguments. The one took me 2.5 months for step 2. Then, after that, deciding to decide, there's a third step where I finally, sincerely say, yeah, I want to go to my peace. I want to be back living from and as that life I am. And step 4, help me get there. Because even in the other non-Christian traditions, the awareness within is always described as having a power to reconstruct our reactive nature. It will actually transform us. It's called the Holy Spirit in Christianity, the power that can transform our nature. And it's learning that on a very minute daily basis that's so cool. Like, yeah, oh no, I could be at peace. And then there comes a day that goes by and it's like, oh wow, I didn't even acknowledge that used to piss me off all the time. Okay, but you see a transformation has occurred. So now I think I'll have some more of that because I've experienced. And that's why I said we start with a model, which is to bring us to experience, not to belief. Beliefs are what we use to navigate this world. We build a framework of reality that it makes us feel safe. Yep, I know how the world works, so I'm not afraid to go out the front door today. Or, I know how the world works, I'm not going out the front door today. But whatever, we all build a belief structure. And the thing with mindfulness is if we want to proceed with it, to go deeper into the love of Christ, my peace, my compassion, I have to be willing to become aware of all my beliefs, because all reactions are rooted in a belief. They may have been formed when I was 1 year old, but I got burnt on a hot stove. Now I'm terrified of stoves. It will hurt me is my belief, buried in the subconscious. But even our conscious beliefs can get in the way of our growth. Not because they're wrong, but because we never look past them or through them. And so awakening, that's what this process is called, that can actually become quite disturbing at times. It can have some very disturbing phases as I become aware of what's in here. I was raised as a patriarchal white supremacist. That was my family model. Somewhere around 18, I just said, this is bullshit. And I was able to reject the whole package. And I've been working on it ever since. But there are still reactions that come up in me once in a while from that old programming. We learn to just see them. Oh, yep, there it is, that's there. Okay, a little help please. Help me bring that to a peaceful expression. And the last part of this use of mindfulness is there's nothing in us that's wrong. Every energy is from our Creator. The trick is how to use it in a good way. The most severe anger or hatred, it's telling me I want something to be different. I want a threat eliminated. It's telling me something. And if I let that energy come up, I'm not suppressing it, I'm not denying it, I'm not calling it bad. It comes up, I'm like, okay, Holy Spirit, awareness, whatever you want to, little help here. How do I transform this energy to express it in a constructive rather than a destructive way? And it will show us. It gives us new ideas. It can even change an emotion. So now when that just as powerful, when I look at Gaza every day on the internet, the same horrible feeling comes up. But now I just immediately start extending love, not just to Gaza, but to the Zionists, because that's where the solution is. When the Zionists wake up, it will end that. So, see, it transformed in me from hating the Zionists, where then I'm sending them hate energy. Well, they already have enough of that. They don't need to get more hate energy from anybody. They need to remember, oh yes, this. And then when I feel this in me, I see it in everyone else. So mindfulness is beginning a lifelong practice. It ties right in with my monk vow coming up. I will choose to go to become an expression of peace from the inner life that I am. And I'll just keep doing my best to. remember that. So that's the quick view of mindfulness. Any thoughts or comments?
Lioness would feel that you're the one that needs to change. Is it Zionists may decide that you're the one that needs to change and they're right where they should be,
Yeah.
you know?
That's where I find more and more, in a sense, I got to be careful how I say this because it can be, in a sense, we stop trying to communicate with ideas and words and to communicate with love. If I'm in the checkout line and there's a guy with a red hat behind me going off and says, right? I might say, I'd rather be nice to people, or I like being nice to people. So I'm only expressing love. I'm not challenging or comparing ideas. So that's how it's developed for me to answer those sort of mismatch in belief and concept. If we're all just in love, in this I wish you well state, we'd have total peace on the planet. And everybody could still go to whatever church they wanted and drive whatever kind of car they wanted. But the mode of living is what mindfulness is focused on. For me, it has grown over the years, and I believe personally that this is the love of Christ that he talked about when he said, love one another as I have loved you. Well, how the heck did you love? All I got's a couple words in an old book. So that's been my prayer for a long time. Show me, how did you love? And this feeling of wishing well and just, who are you, has grown. So I take that as my answer in part from the divine. But the cool thing is it keeps growing. And that's what I have just found so awesome, that I will be playing this mindfulness, and as long as I'm here on the planet, I'm sure. It never gets old, it never gets static, it never reaches a conclusion. It's just a constant discovery. And at 70, like Stefan mentioned recently, I feel like I'm learning more than I have ever learned, which is weird, but it keeps it exciting. So,
If you're not used to the practice, and you've been doing it a while, so you recognize the territory, so
Right.
to speak. How did that go the first time? How did you know that you were there?
it came in stages. I started with it was called a Search for God group when I was 30. And we started with a 20-minute meditation. And she would say, just look for your peace and love. And I'd say, I can't love that. She'd just smile and say, just look for your peace and love. It was about 3 months after I started the group. I was doing my meditation at home one day, just sitting there like, what is this stuff? I think my wife was vacuuming under the chair I was sitting on. She didn't think much of it. And all at once, there was this rush of just this incredible peace. And I had always, all my life, had a chronic left ear infection. It just kept coming. When that rush came, that drained. I could feel it. And I never had it again afterwards. So that was like my wake-up bell. Like, yeah, there's something here. Then, 15 years later, almost 20, again, I was sitting in a meditation and something just clicked. This space in me is what all this stuff has been talking about. And then it began more of how I'm teaching it now, of deliberately, since I know a bit of what that space is, just wanting to have it more often. But it was totally hit and miss, and I believe it has to be for every individual. You know, somebody loves guided meditations. I hate them, you know. I want dead silence when I meditate. It's like, I believe the inner spirit will lead each of us as we are. It's not like a right or wrong way or becoming more right either. It's, you know, you may still be Evel Knievel when you wake up and you're just having more fun jumping across the Grand Canyon. It's not about a goal, it's about just loving that space and then enjoying I can love you with that space. So, ask. Just that's, you know, Jesus said, just keep knocking on the door until you get your answer. And I have found that really is, it's frustrating, you know. I would get it.
It emerged from silence. You were regularly, it sounds like, taking silence, 20 minutes, and it came out of that experience.
I can't say that because I also was doing these groups on a regular basis, sometimes 2 a week. I was doing a Saturday morning thing called an energy session where we put on like high energy music and just soak in the vibes, and it would bring up stuff. I mean, so it wasn't always silence, but it was always being drawn to the silent space in me. Like even now as I participate in a group, I'm listening to, like there's a pause, believe it or not, between every sentence or segment here. And it was developing that habit of listening, I would say, rather than the silence itself. I just like lots of silence. I think maybe I was a Tibetan monk in my last life. I don't know.
I found mindfulness through actually wrestling with myself. I like how your journey was, there was a wave of peace for me. It was a wave of empowerment where, like for 5 years, you just wrestle with your inner thoughts, your inner demons, you would say, and you just let the thoughts and feelings overwhelm you, and you become just that. And it was to the point where this year especially, I just got tired of it. I'm like, I'm not fighting anymore. And you become more empowered each time you have these fights with yourself. Well, for me personally. And I get a wave of empowerment when I just observe and let it go and be like, these aren't my thoughts, these aren't my feelings, like this is somebody else's or something like that. This is not my true self, this is not my true thoughts. And then you become aligned and empowered, and that thought becomes like a little dust bunny instead. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, so it went from something massive that I was wrestling with, and like little by little you become more of this big bright light, and you see it for what it is through the practice. For me, with wrestling. Yeah. And that's how I truly understood mindfulness. You hear it before, but it's not until you go through
It's the experience, and we each get it. However, I'm sure if you explore in hindsight, you will see moments that are what we're pointing at, you know, because we all have it. I was at somebody took me to a very fundamentalist church, and they even had it built so the building would sway, so he'd get people pumped up, and the swaying made you feel like you were having an experience. It was designed on purpose to capture an audience. So he's going on, and he just like got into the love of God, and he starts talking about how wonderful you are as God's creation, and how much God is totally out of character for him. And he's just, you could tell he was into the right space. And then all at once he jumps. He says, but you're still guilty. Like, almost slipped there and gave up the sin for a moment. And those of us in our group, we all laughed. But,
It's a very loud voice, the accuser.
yes.
Yeah.
It's dialogue that has a life of its own.
And its whole purpose, I believe, is to keep us from resting in that peace. So by constantly accusing,
Right.
you never get to become that peace.
It's an
Yeah.
entity on its own.
Yeah.
You gotta call it out.
Cool. All right, I'm going to turn off the camera stuff. Thank you for sharing your, because that's the whole point. It's so different for each person. All we can do is kind of point at things we've experienced, and then maybe rouse a little curiosity in somebody, and then they begin looking and get whatever.